Want to level up your English from beginner to advanced without drowning in textbooks or boring grammar rules? You're in the right place. Just swap in these advanced English words instead of the usual ones. Sound sharper, more confident, more refined, using everyday language you already know. Let's dive in and make your English work smarter.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. You're listening because, well, you want to get smarter faster without wading through tons of info.
Exactly.
Think of this as your shortcut to sounding really sharp, confident in any conversation.
That's the goal. And today we're tackling something super practical. It's about how subtle shifts in the words you choose can really elevate how you come across.
Right. We're not talking about learning a whole new vocabulary from scratch.
No, not at all. It's more about taking common words and finding slightly more, let's say, polished alternatives.
Polished, yeah. Or refined, making your everyday speech sound a bit more elegant. And this isn't about being posh or anything.
Absolutely not. It's accessible to everyone. Just requires a little conscious thought about word choice.
Okay, so let's dive in. We're aiming for practical tips you can use, like right away.
Let's start with the basics then. The foundation, really. Politeness.
Ah, yes, the simple things.
They make a huge difference. Things like, please, thank you, may I help you, could you help me? Getting those into your automatic vocabulary is step one for more refined communication.
It sounds obvious, but you're right. When it's automatic, it just smooths everything out, doesn't it?
It really does. Okay, so beyond the basics, let's look at specific word swaps. Take a word we all use constantly, maybe.
Maybe, yep, use it all the time. What's the more sophisticated cousin?
Try, perhaps.
Yeah.
It means the exact same thing, essentially, but it often sounds a touch more considered, a little more elegant.
Okay, give me an example. Instead of, maybe we should grab lunch.
You could say, perhaps we should grab lunch. See?
Mm-hmm.
Just a subtle shift.
Yeah, I hear it. It does sound a bit more thoughtful. Another one.
Sure. Maybe you're discussing options. Instead of maybe we could try this, you could offer, perhaps we could try this.
Right.
Or asking for help. Could you help me with this, perhaps? It can slot in quite naturally.
Okay, perhaps instead of maybe. Got it. What about when something is, quite good or quite nice?
Instead of quite, consider using rather.
Rather. Okay.
Yeah, you can sound a bit more elevated. So not, it's quite warm today, but maybe it's rather warm today.
Rather warm. I like that. It sounds, a bit more refined.
Exactly. Or expressing preference. Instead of, I quite like tea, you could say, I'd rather have tea, or I rather enjoy tea.
Okay, small change, subtle effect.
Yeah.
Now, this next one you mentioned sounds fun. Instead of very good or very bad, jolly.
Yes, jolly good or jolly bad.
Yeah.
It definitely has a certain, perhaps slightly old-fashioned charm.
It does, like something from a classic film.
And that's partly why it works. We hear very constantly, it's monotonous. Jolly stands out. It adds a little personality.
So that's a very good idea, because
that's a jolly good idea. Or the weather's jolly good, or even on the flip side, that's jolly bad luck.
Jolly bad luck. I might try that one. Okay, moving on. We often start sentences with, I think. Is there a way to refine that?
Well, sometimes, yes. To add a bit more directness or sincerity, you could try phrases like, I'm not going to lie, or in all honesty.
Ah, okay. So instead of, I think that color suits you.
You could say, I'm not going to lie, that color really suits you. Or, in all honesty, that color looks great on you. It can sound more genuine sometimes.
I see. It gives it a bit more emphasis. Okay. Yeah. What about words like totally or completely? We lean on those a lot.
For a bit more punch, try utterly.
Utterly?
Yeah, like instead of I was completely shocked, you could say I was utterly shocked.
That definitely sounds stronger. You mentioned a potential catch with utterly?
Yes. Just be aware it can sometimes carry a slightly negative connotation, though not always. You can be utterly delighted. But it's very common with negatives like utterly disappointed or utterly confused.
Right, context is key. Okay, now for agreement, instead of just correct or right,
a great option is indeed.
Indeed.
Simple.
Very.
It's concise, adds a touch of emphasis, and sounds slightly more formal. Someone says, it's important to be prepared. You reply, indeed.
Okay, like a more formal nod of agreement.
Exactly. Or, this cake is delicious. Indeed. He is indeed very skilled. It just elevates the confirmation.
I like that one. Now, showing contrast, we usually just use but. Any alternatives?
For a more formal contrast, especially in writing or slightly more formal speech, try nevertheless.
Nevertheless. Okay, how does that work?
So, It was pouring rain, but we went anyway. It could become, it was pouring rain, nevertheless, we went anyway.
I see. Same meaning, slightly more formal structure.
Precisely. Another one, she was exhausted, but she finished the race. She was exhausted, nevertheless, she finished the race.
Got it. And for drawing conclusions, we often use so or therefore.
More elegant options here are thus and hence.
Thus and hence. These sound quite formal.
They can be, yes. Good for slightly more structured arguments.
Huh?
For example, he missed the deadline, thus he received a lower mark.
Okay, and hence.
Similar vibe. The evidence was inconclusive, hence the need for further investigation. They signal a logical consequence.
Right. Useful for more considered explanations. What about adding information instead of just also?
For adding points, especially in a more formal context, you can use furthermore or moreover.
Okay.
So instead of the report is well researched and also clearly written, try the report is well researched and furthermore, it is clearly written.
Furthermore, it adds a bit more weight. How about moreover?
Very similar. The strategy is risky. Moreover, its implementation will be costly. It connects additional, often reinforcing points.
Okay, good alternatives for building an argument. Now this one seems handy. Instead of a little less than very, you suggested somewhat.
Yes, somewhat is perfect for indicating a moderate degree. It adds nuance.
So not very long, but not short either.
Exactly. The film was somewhat predictable. Not totally, but, a bit. Or, I was somewhat surprised by the news.
That's a really useful qualifier. Okay, talking about sequence, instead of just happening after.
A more concise and frankly elegant word is subsequently.
It's subsequently.
Yes. He graduated from university and subsequently found a job overseas. It clearly links events in time.
Efficient. I like it. Now, a potentially awkward one. Asking for the restroom. Beyond toilet or bathroom.
In more public or formal settings, lavatory is a very safe and refined choice.
A lavatory.
So you might ask, excuse me, could you direct me to the lavatory? Powder room is sometimes used, often more by women, but lavatory is universally understood as polite and formal.
Good to know. Right, instead of although or even though, you mentioned albeit. How does that fit in?
Albeit is a slightly more literary, sophisticated way to show concession. It means, although it is was.
Example.
He finally finished the project, albeit several weeks late. Or it was an interesting experience, albeit challenging.
Okay. It connects the main idea with a contrasting detail. Nice. What about replacing the simple word new?
Consider novel, especially for ideas, solutions, approaches.
Novel, like a book.
Same spelling, different meaning. Here it means new and original, often in an interesting way. That's a novel solution to the problem.
Ah, a novel approach. Got it. Now, for being very careful or precise.
Meticulous. It implies great attention to detail.
Meticulous.
So he planned the event with meticulous care. He's meticulous about his work. It suggests real thoroughness.
That paints a clear picture, and for something that's flawless.
Impeccable. It means perfect, without any faults.
Impeccable.
His manners are impeccable. The hotel offered impeccable service. It suggests the highest standard.
It sounds very high praise. Okay, what about the perfect or typical example of something? You suggested quintessential. That sounds fancy.
It does, but it's useful. Quintessential describes the perfect embodiment of a quality or class.
No, so like.
That restaurant serves the quintessential New York pizza. Or, he's the quintessential English gentleman. The most typical, perfect example.
Okay, the ultimate representation. Makes sense. Now, practical versus pragmatic.
They're similar, but pragmatic often emphasizes dealing with things sensibly and realistically, based on practical results rather than just theory.
So more focused on what actually works.
Exactly. We need a pragmatic approach to this budget issue. It suggests realism and effectiveness.
Good distinction. And a more sophisticated word for kind.
Benevolent. It often implies a kindness that involves doing good deeds. Generosity.
Benevolent.
A benevolent donation to the charity. The company's benevolent fund helped employees in need.
It sounds very warm and generous. Now, another way to show contrast, specifically an opposite, we had nevertheless for general contrast.
Right. For a direct opposite, use conversely.
Conversely, how so?
Some studies show benefits. Conversely, others show negative effects. Or, she enjoys loud parties. Conversely, her brother prefers quiet evenings. It highlights a direct opposition.
Clear. Okay, this is a big one. You're welcome. It feels so standard. Alternative.
Loads. To make it more personal, maybe either you do the same for me.
Oh, that's nice.
Or if someone thanks you for inviting them, you could just say, thank you for coming. responding with thanks.
Right, reciprocating.
And of course, the more casual, no problem, or my pleasure work well too. They often sound more natural than a rote, you're welcome.
Definitely feels less robotic.
Yeah.
Okay, how about something that's present everywhere?
Ubiquitous. It means seeming to be everywhere at once.
Ubiquitous, that's a good one.
Wi-Fi hotspots are ubiquitous these days. The influence of social media is ubiquitous.
Perfect for things that feel inescapable. Now, if something is very interesting in a way that really grabs you, makes you think.
Compelling.
Compelling.
It suggests something is fascinating or convincing or makes you want to pay attention. The evidence presented was compelling. She told a compelling story.
So it has a power to it.
Nice.
What about expressing eagerness or enthusiasm?
Keen is a great word here.
Keen.
Yes, he's keen to start the new project. She has a keen eye for detail. It suggests sharpness and enthusiasm.
Keen. I like that. Now, this one surprised me in the outline. Using awfully and terribly instead of very or really. Don't those usually mean bad things?
They do as adjectives, yes. Awful weather, terrible news. But as adverbs modifying other adjectives, they can function as intensifiers, like very, but often sound a bit more sophisticated or emphatic in certain contexts.
Really?
It's awfully kind of you, or I'm terribly sorry for the delay, it's awfully hot in here. It's a bit of a quirk of English, often sounds quite polite.
Huh. That's fascinating. Okay, I'll listen out for that. Now, for something extremely bad, like very, very bad.
Atrocious.
Atrocious. That sounds strong.
It is. It means horrifyingly bad. The conditions were atrocious. His singing was atrocious. Use it for things that are truly terrible.
Duly noted. What about describing a boring person or a dull event?
You can simply call them a bore.
Just a bore.
Yep. Honestly, the lecture was a bit of a bore, or he can be such a bore when he talks about spreadsheets. It's quite direct.
Okay, now food servings. Instead of just a serving.
A slightly more traditional polite term is a helping.
A helping.
Would you like another helping of potatoes? I had a generous helping of dessert.
Sounds nicer than serving. Okay, this phrase is interesting. God forbid, instead of, I hope something doesn't happen.
Yes, God forbid is an expression used to show you really hope something bad won't happen.
Yeah, like.
Take an umbrella, God forbid it rains. Or, God forbid anything should happen to them on their travels. It adds emphasis to the hope.
Got it. A bit dramatic, but clear. What about instead of respectful or well-behaved?
Courteous is a lovely alternative. It emphasizes politeness and consideration for others.
Courteous.
The staff are very courteous. It's important to be courteous to fellow passengers. It highlights good manners.
Nice. And finally, that classic greeting, how are you? Alternatives.
Yeah, it can get repetitive. Try mixing it up with, how have you been? Especially if you haven't seen them in a while.
Okay.
Or a more general, how is everything? Or how's everything going? They can feel a bit warmer and invite a slightly more detailed answer sometimes.
Good tips. Wow, okay, that's a lot of useful swaps. It really does show how small word choices can shift the tone.
Absolutely. And the main point isn't about using the biggest or most obscure words. It's about precision, clarity, and yes, adding that touch of elegance through conscious selection.
Right. It's not about showing off. It's about communicating more effectively and maybe making a better impression.
Exactly.
So for everyone listening, the challenge is maybe pick one or two of these today. Just one or two. Try perhaps instead of maybe, or rather instead of quite. See how it feels.
Yeah, experiment a little. You might be surprised how it subtly changes your interactions and even your own confidence.
Definitely. And maybe start noticing these words more when you read or listen to others.
That's a great way to learn too. So consider this. In your very next conversation, how could using just one of these alternatives subtly change how you're perceived or even how the conversation flows? Something to think about.
And that's a wrap. Small changes, big impact. Now you're ready to sound sharper and more confident in any conversation. Keep practicing and watch your English take off. Catch you in the next one.